Hello, everyone. This is Ifama Udalami from the Udalami Law Firm, and today this is my first time using this StreamYard to tape my my lives. But so bear with me. I hope it's working, and I hope the comments show up. So today I have a really great topic, but let me introduce myself first for those of you who do not know me. My name is Ifama Odolami. I'm an immigration lawyer in New Jersey, and I'm also an immigrant. So as you know, my passion is to help my fellow immigrants to navigate the immigration process so that they can begin to live the American dream. And this is so important to me. So I come on and I do videos because I want you guys to know what you need to be doing to make sure that you're putting your papers correctly. Now, I am nothing. The information I'm giving you today is really just for informational purposes. I am not giving legal advice because I do not know the details of your case. And in immigration law, the advice a lawyer can give you can turn on a little detail. So if you have an immigration issue, I would encourage you to seek out an immigration attorney so that you can get your case done right the first time without any problems. So again, I would also caution people from putting all their issues, all their immigration issues on Facebook, because as you're aware, it's social media and everyone reads it, including immigration. So hi, PSC, thank you for tuning in. So today I have a great topic, and I'm not sure if I'm looking at the camera, but please forgive all that. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of what I have today. So today I want to talk about marriage. How do you prove a bona fide marriage? In every family-based petition, which is when you're filing for your spouse or any benefits you get from as a result of marriage, you have to prove that it's a real marriage as opposed to a sham marriage or a marriage that you entered into for immigration benefits. And this is so important. So even though I want to talk about how to prove a bona fide marriage, what the red flags are for fraudulent marriage, which is what is it that the immigration officers see in a petition that makes them decide that this might be a fraudulent marriage. I want you to know this so that you have all your paperwork prepared properly, so that you don't have to go through the process of proving that your marriage is indeed legitimate. And let me put this out there. Sham marriages are a no-no. Don't do it, because the consequences are so grievous. Do not do it. If there's a finding that you've been engaged in a sham marriage, or that you haven't met the burden of proving that it's a real marriage, that determination will follow you even if you get married subsequently, right? So if in an initial previous marriage there's a finding that it's a sham marriage, or that you didn't meet the burden of proving to the immigration USCIS that you engage in a real marriage, even if you get married to, if you divorce that person and get into another marriage where you have triplets every year, and you can prove that it's a real marriage, it doesn't matter. That determination could prevent you from getting your green card in that marriage. As a matter of fact, if there's a finding of a sham marriage, it can prevent you from getting any immigration benefits at all, ever. So that's why it's really important that you don't engage in sham marriages. And it's also really important that when you decide to file your application, you want to do so with the assistance of an attorney that knows what they're doing. And I'm going to go over this just so you know the information that you need to be putting together so that your attorney can file your paperwork for you. So with regards to bona fide marriage, what is USCIS looking for? They're looking for proof that it's a real, genuine marriage, okay? You want to show that you and your spouse have lived together, right? If that you live together and that you've commingled your finances, you want to show that people know you as a couple. So typically, when we prove evidence of cohabitation, you want to bring a lease or a mortgage, or utility bills. You want to have driver's licenses that show that both of you are residing in the same address. You want to show that you're receiving mail to, both of you are receiving mail to your home, and you want to show that you have joint bank statements coming, both of them coming to your home. You want to also show, with regards to cohabitation, that and another thing I want to say with regards to the leases, make sure they're signed. If you have a lease that's not signed, that's not helpful. Okay, so if a lot of my clients I know are renting with family members, or they're renting in a place that all utilities are included, so they don't have utility bills and all that. So you can get a letter from the landlord indicating that, we call it an affidavit, indicating that you live there, you've lived there with your spouse from point A to point B, and as part of your lease, the rent is the utilities are included. So that's one way of showing cohabitation. Now, the other thing is, I always tell people, if you have evidence that you, like if you have a child together, or you have children together, or you have stepchildren, you want to bring your birth certificate, or you want to show pictures with your family doing family activities. Even if it's your stepchild, if you go to your stepchild's kindergarten event, and you're taking pictures, that's a good one. Take pictures. If you're listed as a person for emergency contact in your stepchild's school, or with the pediatrician, or anything like that, you want to bring that, because that's evidence that that this is a family. If you've traveled with your spouse to on vacation together, or with the kids, if you have the receipts for the train fare, or the ticket for the plane, or the hotel where you stayed, or pictures where you guys did landmarks where you went to, those are the things that show that it's a real relationship. I mean, you know what a real relationship looks like, and you should really have a copious amount of it. I know if it's a young marriage, you generally don't have that. However, by the time you get to your interview, you want to begin to accumulate this information for USCIS. So the other stuff that you can show to prove that it's a real marriage is, like the wedding itself, who was there. If your family members were there, that's always a plus. If you received gifts from your family members, cards congratulating you, or, like sometimes in the weddings, you do this little favors, with your pictures and all that, that's always a plus to show that, you guys put some, effort into the wedding. If you, I know that everyone cannot afford to have a fancy wedding. So this is not to say that if you don't have a fancy wedding, that you're not going to be able to prove that it's a real relationship. I'm just giving you examples of what you could do. Like in Nigeria, we have traditional weddings. So if you had a traditional wedding, you want to show that, that kind of stuff. So we've talked about evidence of cohabitation. We've talked about evidence of, family, pictures with your in-laws, pictures at Thanksgiving, with all the family members eating at the table, whatever, or the barbecue. We want to see that people know you together, know both of you, to be a couple. And to that effect, that's why we sometimes will ask for affidavits from people, from family members and friends. So hello, let me say hello to some of the people on here. Hello, Aisha, how are you? And so let's talk about finances. That's a big thing. Commingling of finances. You have to show that your finances are mixed. You have to show that you have a joint bank statement, and not just a joint bank statement where there's nothing going on in that account. They want to see that there's activity by both of you in that account. For instance, if you're getting paid, if you have a job, if you show that both your incomes are, going, your direct deposit is going into the same account, that's a really big positive. So what else? Tax returns. If you're married, please file as married. do not file as single when you're married, because that's a problem. That's a problem. Okay, so you want to file that you are married, and you want to put your spouse, even if your spouse is not working, you want to make sure that your spouse's information is there. Now, let's see. We've talked about, another thing I want to talk about is, social media. You need to be careful what you have on social media, because you don't want to have single on social media when you're married. So if you're going to be on social media, you want to make sure that your social media identity is reflective of your identity as a married person. Okay. So what else? If you have text messages, that indicate that there's a lot of communication going between you and your spouse, that's really helpful. So these are just some of the examples of the things that you could show to prove that it's a bona fide relationship. So let me now talk about the things that USCIS sees when it's, which I guess the red flags for fraudulent marriage. One of them is a large disparity in age. If there's a disparity between in the ages of the spouses, that's really a red flag. So I typically think anything over over 10 years will come to the attention. And I know that a lot of times when you have a man who's much younger than a woman, I mean, it's unfair, but typically that will raise attention too, because with some cultures, it's not normal or it's not usual to have younger men marrying older women. So they tend to scrutinize that. Another thing that really, really is a red flag is when you come into the country and then you meet somebody and you get married to them within a month, 3 months, 6 months. That usually is a red flag, because it indicates that you came in, it looks like you came in looking to marry somebody so that you can get your papers. Now, that doesn't mean that if that happened that you wouldn't get your papers or that it's a fraudulent marriage, but what USCIS is looking for, what the law requires, is that when you got into this marriage, that you meant for it to be a real marriage, and it wasn't a marriage that you entered into solely for immigration benefits. So, but when you get married shortly after coming into the country, it raises a red flag, really. Okay, if you get married while when you've been denied some immigration benefit, or when you're in deportation proceeding, you have a really high burden of proving that that marriage that you entered into was entered into for love and not for immigration benefits. So those are the things that you need to watch out for. Now, another factor that raises a red flag is if the petitioner has filed for multiple people in the past. Like they were married, they filed for somebody, got divorced, got married again, filed for somebody, got divorced. So basically, they've been, through marriage, they've been able to file for different spouses to come into the country. So, or to get their green card. So that kind of a petitioner, if you're the beneficiary of that kind of petition, they're going to really scrutinize that that relationship. Okay, so let's see. Another thing that will raise a red flag is if you and your spouse don't live together, especially if both of you are in the United States. Now, it raises a red flag, not that you can't explain it away. If you have a good explanation, for instance, you're a student and you're in a different school from where he lives, that could be an explanation. Or you have a job and he works somewhere else, but you really have to explain why you cannot be looking for another job where your spouse is. So it has to be that kind of a job that you cannot find easily, because if it's a regular old job, it's really hard for you to explain why you cannot get that regular old job in the town where your spouse is. Okay. All right. So another thing that raises a red flag is when family members are not aware of the marriage. So you have nothing. Nobody is able to attest to the fact that you're a married couple. There's no, in your pictures, your photographs, it's just you and your spouse alone all the time in different places. Applebee's. No, that is not very convincing of a bona fide marriage. They want to see pictures of you with other people, in social situations where it's clear that you and your spouse are a couple. Okay. All right. Let's see. Another thing that raises a flag for bona fide marriage is discrepancies, right? When you go for your interview, and sometimes they do a Stokes interview, which means that they put you and your spouse, they interview you separately. I mean, there's certain questions that, the answers may be different, but you have to, the inconsistencies cannot be material, which means if they ask you a question such as, how did you come into the USCIS office that morning, and one spouse says, oh, we came in by train, and the other spouse says we drove in. That's inconsistent, and that's a material inconsistency, because you can't really explain it away unless you did both, So there's some inconsistencies that you can explain away, and there's some that you cannot. So it's those inconsistencies, the more you have them, the more likely that USCIS will find out that it's a sham marriage. So you want to, and I always tell people, if you go for an interview, you want to go with an attorney, because if there's a Stokes interview, your attorney will be with the petitioner, and your attorney will be with the beneficiary. So in that case, your attorney will know what questions were asked and what questions and the answers that were given by both parties, to make sure that when you receive a denial, that the information in there with regards to the inconsistencies is 100% accurate. So so that's really that's for the importance of the documents you want to prove a bona fide marriage, and the flags, the things that that show a fraudulent marriage. So again, like I always say, you want to do this right, and it's important to file your documents. You want to put all the information in there with the filing, and you also want to make sure that that when you go for your interview, that you go through your documents to make sure that you have all the stuff that you need, and that you can answer the questions that the interviewer asks you. And I always tell my clients that when you go for an interview, you want to, if you don't understand the question that's been asked, you want to tell the officer that you don't understand, because you don't want to answer a question that you think is being asked, and it turns out to be an incorrect, that it's incorrect because you assumed something that wasn't actually there. So if you don't understand a question, it's a good idea to tell the officer that I don't understand this question. Could you rephrase it? And he will. So I think that's really it. Let's see. I don't see any questions here, so I'm going to sign off, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to go over the importance of showing that you have a bona fide marriage, because I know some people, they have the life insurance, the health insurance, and they're able to show all that, but that's really not enough. Of course, the absence of those documents will be problematic, but just because you have it doesn't prove that you have a bona fide marriage. You want to be able to personalize your relationship, the things that you're doing that's different, not just that you have a life insurance, or that you're able to show a lease, or that you're able to show a bank statement. And when I say personalize it, we want to see that in your joint bank account, that the bills for your home, is being paid there, or that both of you, have there are 2 debit cards in that account, showing that it's being used by 2 people. If you have joint credit cards, you want to show that both cards are being used in that credit card account. And we want to see that it's, it's being used for, things that, are regular things, not once in a while you buy like something worth $5. No, people use their credit cards more than that. So you want to be able to show that your life and your spouses are, commingled financially. So I think that's pretty much it. So I'm going to end this broadcast, and I'm going to sign off. But again, if you want to file for a family member, your spouse, your children, your stepchildren, your parents, your siblings, please feel free to call my office, 973-993-1900, or Delamy Law Firm. Thank you.